Episode 164, IRONMAN Maryland and Chattanooga with Julian Summers. Welcome to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. Today I'm talking with Julian Summers about his recent races at IRONMAN Maryland and Chattanooga. He had a time of 14 hours, 25 minutes, and 29 seconds at Maryland, and unfortunately had a DNF at Chattanooga due to some logistics issues. These races took place on the last weekend of September in 2018. Welcome to the show, Julian. I look forward to hearing about your races.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm excited to tell you the ins and outs about it, the goods and the bads, and see if you guys like it.
Nice. So what made you want to do this double Ironman weekend?
So what happened was I withdrew from Wisconsin about a month before, I forget what it was, maybe 3 weeks, because a week and a half out, it was pretty clear that there was going to be no swim, and it was supposed to be a shortened race, and I wanted to have a full race because I'm trying to qualify for Kona on the Legacy, and I just wanted to have a full race, and it made sense. So I missed out on Wisconsin, and then when I was looking at the calendar, I realized that IRONMAN Maryland I was already paid for it to do, and I saw that Chattanooga was the next day, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do it back to back, because I'm actually training for Ultraman. So I thought it'd be a good test, and if I could figure it out logistically. So it was just more of a crazy challenge, and see if I could make it happen with my friend Jason.
Nice. So your friend Jason was doing it?
Yeah, my friend Jason Zip. I met him at a group on Facebook for the Texas race, and we've become great friends ever since. And called him, messaged him, and he's crazy enough like me. I'm in. So we did it together.
Wow. So how was your training going into this double weekend? What was this like?
Well, I don't want to be. I want to be honest. I didn't change anything. I just my coach Cliff Sherb has me doing, the things that I have to do for most of the time. But it was really no difference. I mean, obviously I should have done more, but I just went and just did what we did before. I rested a little bit more, and I fueled pretty well, and didn't really change too much. It wasn't like an Ultraman.
Okay. So what was your longest swim, bike, and run workouts going into this double weekend?
Well, I just did let's see. So I was in the Philippines for work. I did a half Ironman. My longest swim was probably an hour. I was doing masters now and again, and then I would swim intermittently. My longest bike was probably 4 hours, maybe 4.5. I mixed it up with some mountain biking as well. I do some mountain biking just for hills. And my longest run was probably under 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
At least a month leading into it, yeah.
Wow. Now, whenever you think of the workouts, were you stacking these workouts back to back to back to build excessive fatigue? What was this like?
No. Just to give you a quick understanding, Chattanooga, the double challenge happened within a week and a half. So a week and a half prior to the race, I was only signed up for Maryland. So there was no planning. I actually reached out to my coach and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And he's like, you're crazy. And I was like, well, I'm doing it. And he's like, okay. So none of my training was really leading up to, I'm going to be doing a double. It came out of the pure thin air, basically.
Oh, wow. So you just got a wild hair and just said, I'm just going to do this and see how it goes.
Yeah. So I had actually looked at this about 3 months ago, because when I was browsing through the Ironman website, I thought, oh, that is an opportunity. But when I looked at my times, I'm a slow athlete. So if I needed to finish, it's a 12-hour, about a 10 to 12-hour drive from Maryland to Chattanooga, which time-wise doesn't allow me any time. I'd have to be a 12-hour athlete, and I'm not. But then, I don't know how, somehow someone convinced me that there was a time difference between Maryland, East Coast, and Tennessee of 1 hour, meaning Central Standard Time, which is true for some parts of Tennessee, but not Chattanooga. So I was like, well, I have an extra hour. I could do 13:50 or 14, 12-hour drive and make it to the start of Chattanooga. Well, that turned out to be false because Chattanooga is Eastern Standard Time. So then it was like, well, I'm already in. Let me just try and do this.
Oh, wow. So now if you think about your training overall objectively, what was the most hours of training you did in 1 week?
Okay, so I'm a little bit different than most athletes because how many have I done? 5 already, 6 races, fulls and halves. So this whole year has been basically, it sounds dumb, but Ironman has basically been my big days of training so that I can get to Ultraman. I would say the most I've done in a week is probably 12 hours.
Oh, wow. Now, if you kind of think of what you're doing for work, what are you doing when you're not racing or training or traveling back and forth to all the races that you're doing?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
So what are you doing when you're not training or racing?
Oh, I have a wife and 2 beautiful kids, and I have my own business. So I'm very busy making sure my business is working and running around doing things like that. But I'm generally quite busy. So that's why I've taken on this year the reason I did. So I'm trying to finish Kona. I did my first race in 2016, my first Ironman in 90 days. I'd never run, bike, or swum until that point, really. I did Ironman Florida, and then I decided I want to do Kona or qualify Legacy by the end of this year. So I accepted that I was never going to be coming in at 12 hours because of my time to train. And my coach knows that. So we just work a plan that gets me basically 16:59 each time. I'm happy. That's this year.
All right. So now then, what does a normal work week look like for you? And how do you manage your training integrated into it?
Wow. Work week for me is completely unpredictable. It ranges from 200 miles of driving in a day to no driving in a day to meetings in person to no meetings in person. Basically, I'm a salesperson. I sell insurance, my insurance agency. So my training is basically all spread around a day. So it's like coach will say, I want an hour and a half swim, this amount of yards. I want you to do 2 hours of bike. And then I will fit it in at 9 o'clock at night or 4 o'clock in the morning or at lunchtime. So it's a very haphazard sort of training schedule, which is the reason why I'm not upset getting 16:59 at races, because I physically can't commit to 16 or 17 hours of dedicated time.
Wow. So now, being that you're doing these races and you're taking longer than 12 hours, you're going to be on the course for quite some time. And even throughout training, you're out there training for quite some time as well. What kind of nutrition are you using?
So that's actually interesting you say that, because one thing I dialed in really early, and my coach will testify to this, is I figured nutrition out really quickly. And the reason is I realized quickly, if I don't have my nutrition down, I will not be able to finish these races, because I am doing 16. I mean, my first race was 16:44. I've done 14:07 and everything in between. So my nutrition has basically been Carbo Pro and Tailwind for the bike. There was a section between race 1 and 5 or 6 where I was using real food. So like peanut butter and jelly, rice cakes, and real Cliff bars. I don't do gels. I've never done gels after the first race. It's mostly real food, and then bananas. I take bananas at every aid station. And the key for me is salt. I figured out salt very early on. The number one thing for me has been sodium. I mean, I've researched that. People call me the salty beast because they come to me for salt questions. I know more about salt than most people do.
Oh, wow. So Matt Miller might come to you for advice then.
Well, yeah. Matt Miller, it's funny that Matt Miller and I were together, because I'm thinking, you're the guy that makes money from salt. I'm the one that preaches it. Actually, I will give Matt some advice on how he can, maybe sell a little bit more salt. But yes, I could certainly help. I help a lot of people with salt. It's the one missing piece I've noticed with age groupers. Probably 90% of age groupers do not consume enough salt at a race.
Really?
Yep, maybe more.
What do you mean by that?
So, your body, I don't know, uses between 600 and 3,000 milligrams of sodium an hour, depending on your shape, your size, your genetics. It's not necessarily size related, but someone like me could lose 1,200 milligrams of sodium, and someone like you could lose 900, even if you're bigger than me. If you're not equaling that sodium intake, by the time you hit mile 12 or 13, you're throwing up, you're depleted, and you're basically groveling for that race. And then it's going to come down to your fitness to get you through. But I believe if you're moderately fit and you take the right sodium, you can't take too much on a day, actually. But even if you take 13 or 1,400 and you're only maybe 100 depleted per hour, you're still going to be able to get through 16 hours, no cramping, no crazy thoughts, and your body's going to not be able to use the water to flow through the muscles.
Okay. So what is your advice for giving to normal age groupers about salt then?
Man, I'd hate to go like individually, like in a blanket, but basically what I do is I do 3 salt sticks per hour on the bike. So coming out of the swim, I'll do 3 tablets of salts, which is around 700. And then whatever other sodium I get from my food. So I might get 200 from Tailwind or bananas. Bananas have some salt. I mean, whatever I can get sodium outside of food. And then I'll take 2 licks of base salt every hour too. So I'm probably getting 1,000 an hour. And for me, I'm 152 pounds. I don't think I sweat a lot. It works for me. I don't know, someone like you might need 4 an hour, but definitely 3 an hour, basically from the bike all the way through the run. Sometimes I'll even do 4 at about mile 15 of the run because I'll feel myself starting to get a little cramp. And as soon as I take the 4th one, then I'm clear again.
Oh, wow.
But it has to be way more than people think. I know that for sure.
Really? So you think there's like a general assumption about salt that is wrong?
Yes, 100%. If I had $1 for every person that I've spoken to who's like, oh, I take it like when I feel like it, I'm thinking to myself, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, ask the pros, ask the top age groupers. You sit down next to an age grouper that's done, 925, and he's like, yeah, I do 4 an hour. You're like, how come no one knows that? Okay, they're pushing at a higher level. I get it. But if anything, we maybe need more because we're there longer and it's much more grueling and we're less fit. Those guys are, they're running hot for 4 or 5 hours on a bike. We're running 7 hours, 8 hours. So you definitely need equal amounts of sodium. And what happens is, and for me, is once I hit mile 15 on the run, if I'm not correctly salting, I can feel it. And then there's a point where you go too far where you can't recover. Then it becomes pure mental tenacity and good luck to make it to the end. When I've increased my sodium, I've been fatigued, but I've never had problems with my muscles. And I'm not a fit athlete. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not strong, but I don't train a lot because I don't have the ability to. So my nutrition is, touch wood, really, really on.
Wow. So in comparison to what you know versus what Matt Miller actually puts out about his products and what he says do, is there a difference?
I don't know anything Matt's put out. I met Matt like a week ago. I know he owns Base Salt. I use the product. I don't know what his structure is as far as what he tells people to do. He's a beast athlete, so whatever he does must be working. But sometimes I also find that the really good athletes don't understand guys like me because they're not out there till 16 hours. They're done 10, 11 hours. It's a different ball game when you've got another 7 hours to go. And I'm not saying they're wrong or right, but for me, just a very average Joe, and everybody that I've helped with salt has done remarkably well. Like there's not one person I've helped that has come back to me and said, oh, that was the worst day of my life. They all go, oh my gosh, I've never felt so good. So I'm on the right track clearly as far as understanding that it's a deficiency in sodium is a huge problem with age groupers.
Wow. So now, as far as your logistics are concerned, so, I mean, if we just take a look at Maryland and Chattanooga, you're supposed to check your bike in the day before. You're supposed to go to the athlete check-in the day before the race, but you're going to be in Maryland whenever Chattanooga has this. How did you work with Chattanooga to work around all this?
Okay, so we got we got zero help from Ironman on this, and rightfully so, because the rules are the rules, and we did not want to. First of all, we didn't even ask. So what we did was, Jason met me so Jason came from Massachusetts, and I flew into New York. He picked me up from New York on the way from Massachusetts. We drove to Maryland on Wednesday morning. We checked in at 9:30 in the morning. Athlete check-in. We spoke to, did everything we needed to do, timing, chips, all that stuff. Got all of our bags. We got in the car. We drove to Chattanooga. We got to Chattanooga that evening. We woke up sharp in the morning on Thursday. We physically walked in and checked in at Chattanooga just like anybody else would on a regular day. We then sat at the athlete briefing for 35 minutes, and that's when we were told the swim was canceled. So we did everything we needed to do. The only thing that we got permission from Ironman to do, basically an exception, if you want to call it, was, and this was a one-time thing because of Matt Miller, is that we had Tri-Bike check our bike in on Saturday because we would be racing. So clearly we couldn't be in two places at one time, but that was the only thing. Tri-Bike was just to take our bike, and it was labeled, stickered. We did everything. They were just going to walk it in and put it on the rack for us. And then we drove back from Chattanooga that night. We got to Maryland like 1 a.m. We slept. We woke up. We did athlete briefing in Maryland. We then checked our bikes and bags in Maryland and went out for a shakeout ride and packed our stuff get ready for to race Maryland the next day. Packed everything so we could leave straight after the race and drive back to Chattanooga that night after Maryland, which was about 12 hours, and then arrive in Chattanooga, just basically be dropped off at the swim and then go, assuming that our bike was there, which we had someone double check for us.
Okay, so Tri-Bike was actually going to be taking your bike from Maryland to Chattanooga for you.
No. So we have two bikes. So I had a bike in Maryland and I had a bike in Chattanooga.
Okay, so you used two different bikes, two sets of gear, two sets of everything.
Two sets of everything.
Oh, wow.
So the only thing that we physically couldn't do was we couldn't be, at 2:00 on Saturday, which was mandatory Chattanooga check-in, we couldn't physically be back there to rack the bike. We didn't need to check in our bike. Well, and because the swim was canceled, we were basically going to be wearing our bike stuff in the morning. So we didn't need to have a T1 bag. And that was the only exception we got. We just said, look, can you guys just allow someone to put our bike on the rack? But as far as checking in, we did everything by the book. We, I think maybe the other guys didn't have to do that because they were raising money for cancer and everything. But we did everything by the book. And then I already had a bike in Maryland. So when I got back, I just checked my bike in Maryland, checked my bike in Chattanooga. Everything was fine.
So how did everybody else, because there's 7 of you that did this?
Yeah, so Matt Miller's crew, they were they got an exception because they were raising money, and obviously Matt Miller being base salt and everything he does for the community, I believe they were allowed to check in the morning of Chattanooga, so they didn't have to go back and forth like I did. But that was a one-time thing that they they raised a lot of money for cancer. And it was this unique opportunity for them to do that. And it was featured with Ironman. They gave them their own rack and everything. So, but Ironman only gave them, I think, 5 spots. So it was just a one-time situation where it could all line up well for everybody. They wouldn't do that for me and Jason. So we just sucked it up and drove.
Wow, that sucks.
Not really. There was the rules, and I was willing to do it. Jason was willing to do it. It was either that or not do it. I mean, what am I going to do? Say I'm a spoiled brat and, allow me to be like the other guys? They already had done that. I came in late as a matter of fact, we did this on our own accord. No one told us about this. And then Matt Miller found out we were doing it, and they contacted him, and he was like, no, I don't know these guys. And then we became friends because we're like, well, you guys are doing the same thing. So I wasn't upset about it. It was what it was. I was grateful that they would let us have Tri-Bike check the bikes in, because if they wouldn't do that, we would have had no chance of doing it at all. So I wasn't upset. It was just a long drive, but we had a lot of fun and we made the most of it.
Wow. Now, as far as the travel, I guess, kind of to back up just a little bit, when did you actually start your entire journey? It was that Wednesday from
Wednesday. So Tuesday night, I flew from here, red eye, arrived Wednesday morning at 5. Jason picked me up at 5 o'clock on Wednesday morning, last week or whatever the week before. Yeah. So we started Wednesday morning together. I think we landed up driving close to 3,000 miles.
God.
Yeah. And then we did too. And we know Jason finished both races. He was amazing. And he basically had exactly the same time for both, which was incredible. Neither of us slept at all, on the drive from Maryland to Chattanooga. We couldn't sleep. It's very hard to explain, but we didn't sleep a wink. It was crazy, but, it was fantastic. It was tough, but it was good.
Wow. Okay. So we'll go ahead and dive into Maryland first here. So you've already talked about the check-in process and all that. What about food, like your day-to-day food going into this race? What did you want to get to eat?
Oh man, that was an absolute nightmare because food, first of all, I don't have the best diet generally just because I'm a busy guy and, I'm not the most in shape guy. I don't eat badly, but I eat all over the place. But I was determined that on the drive we would eat well, certainly eat on time. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner had to be the same so that we lead 3 days before the race, we would be adequately fueled. That went out the window when you go on the freeway between Maryland and Chattanooga, and the only things to eat are pizza and gross, like 7-Eleven type food. I mean, there was no restaurants along that route, so we ate all over the place. Our whole plan went out the window. Maryland, luckily, the night before we met up with the Bay Salt guys, and we had a nice meal. I don't know what Jason had. I think I had some shrimp pasta or something, but we were not primed the way I wanted to be leading into that morning, but it was fine. It's all we could do. We just didn't have an option.
Wow. Now, if you think of what you actually wanted to get in the day before, what did you want to actually get in?
The day before, so 2 days before we start, I stopped eating greens. Fiber is probably not that very good for you, just for stomach. I generally will eat, eggs, bacon. I mean, like high calorie foods, because you want to be topped up with calories come Saturday or the race morning. You don't want to. I think a lot of age groupers tend to cut back on food and then do the whole like carbo load thing. Carbo loading, I'm not a nutritionist. Carbo loading only works if you've been restricting carbs. So I smile when I hear people on a carbo load, but I get it. That's what you think it is. But generally, rice, chicken, a random fish like a salmon or something. And I generally eat a good big breakfast the day before and then sort of wind down my meal. So lunch will be a little bit smaller than breakfast, and then dinner's a little bit smaller than lunch. And I try sort of, arrive in the race morning basically being able to be empty, if that makes any sense, after a good breakfast.
It does. So you kind of want to taper your nutrition through the day, basically.
Hello?
You just basically want to taper your nutrition through the day.
Right. Again, I'm not the nutrition guru, and I'm seriously can't pretend I am. It's just my coach has always kind of led me down that road of let's just kind of let's wean our way down, but don't hide from calories, because you show up, it's a long day, especially for me, 16 hours, let's say 15-hour average. You better have those calories in your body. You start withholding calories the day before because you want to keep your weight down. You're going to do more harm than good. And that's just the way I've always done it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's what I've always done.
Okay. Now, whenever you start thinking of the day before the first race at Maryland, you're checking in your bike. How is your nerves and anxiety going into this race?
Every single race, I have nerves and anxiety. And I'd love to have, I've done 8 now or 9. I've finished 9 now. Always have anxiety. I think if you don't have anxiety or nerves, you're fooling yourself, number one, or you're setting yourself for failure, because it's a long day. There's so much stuff that can go wrong. I mean, the stuff that's gone wrong with me in races, I feel like I could write a book about, but then I talk to half my friends and they have exactly the same stories. So anxiety and nerves are good. I think that's what keeps you on your toes and it keeps you humble and present. I think you got to stay in present time when you race, because especially on the bike, if you're dreaming about something else, you're going to not see that guy that's not paying attention, or you're not going to see the pothole. But always nervous, always have anxiety, but at the same time, trust my training, trust that I get to the start line, and then just, one yellow boy in front of the other. And that's basically how I do it.
Okay. Now, how much sleep did you get the night before the race?
The Maryland race or the Chattanooga?
The Maryland race.
Maryland race got full 8 hours. I never take medicine or any types of pills, but every single Ironman, I take 2 sleeping tablets. I take 2 NyQuils at about 7:30, and by 9 o'clock, I'm in dreamland. And I find that I wake up 4 o'clock, no problem. I've practiced it during training. So, people say, "Oh, you're groggy." I'm like, I'm not groggy. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Of course I'm groggy. I'm groggy if I wake up without medicine. But I've still got 3 hours. So then I eat some food and I rest really well. And I think that's been a big key for me, is being able to sleep well the night before. And it takes away some of the anxiety. But wake up in the morning, immediately have butterflies. I'll take a quick shower and I go, what the heck am I doing? I wish I wasn't doing this. And then I go.
Wow. Now, after you get up on race day for Maryland, how far away from the swim start y'all staying? Because I know Maryland, it's not like a normal race venue where you can just stay in town. This is kind of a little bit of a commute for most people, right?
Yeah, there's no hotels right. Excuse me. There's no hotels right at the water's edge, but there's tons of Airbnbs, and even if you come, I think last year I stayed at the Hyatt, or I forget which hotel, and I drove my car in. It's really easy to get to. Maryland is a very easy logistical race to get to. There's tons of parking, but we were staying probably 3 or 4 minute walk from the swim start. So we just, when we were done with our coffee and we went to the toilet and we just walked. So let's go, guys. We walked out. We were there early and checked our bikes, and we were ready to go.
Okay. So you get to transition. What are you doing in transition before you actually get down there? Did you have a breakfast as well? What is this?
Yeah. So wake up at 4 o'clock typically. What I normally do is I wake up. I can't eat in the morning normally, but it's really hard for me. But I'll wake up at 4. I'll have a shower. I like to shower just to be, I don't know, it's like a fresh start. So I'm all showered. Any final shaving I have to do, but I'm showered, and then 4:15 or so, I'll go through my breakfast. I typically have a big bowl of oatmeal, and I put some peanut butter and some jam inside, some fats and some proteins and some sugars, and maybe have a banana and have a cup of coffee. But try to do that like 4:30, and then leave for transition around 5:30 if I'm close. And then, everything's done on my bike the night before. I mean, I've already got air in the tires from the day before. I always pump them up to 110. And assuming they go down to 100 overnight, I'm fine with 100. And generally speaking, I get there. I don't even have to put air in my tires. And I'll put my bottles on. I've got this time I did all liquids. Normally I have food. So this time I did all liquid. Just topped up my bottles and put my bike computer on. In about 2 minutes, I was done. Walked over to the blue bag and the red bag, just double checked that everything was in there, just ran through it in my mind, and I was ready to go. It was basically lots of twiddling thumbs afterwards.
Okay. Now, was this a wetsuit legal race for y'all?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So are you using a full sleeve or a sleeveless?
I was using a full sleeve. My coach said that I've used the sleeveless before, and I find that there's more points of chafing with the sleeveless, and unless it's really hot, why would I use the sleeveless? Because I'm going to get that extra buoyancy from the arms. So I'm not a very good swimmer, so I try to take all the advantages that I can get.
Right. Now, as far as after you leave transition, you're getting ready for the race, getting down to the swim start, what was your thoughts going into this, being that you're about to not start just a 1 Ironman, but 2?
Yeah, interesting. Jason and I, we talked a lot about the points of failure of this whole endeavor. Just trying to make it to the start was going to be, a serious run of luck and events to get there, just to get to the beginning, let alone not crashing before or doing something stupid on Saturday. They would basically take you out of Sunday. So what we decided, and we physically talked about this, was, hey, on Friday night, you know what? We go to bed tonight. Tomorrow morning, we wake up with one thought only, and that's Maryland. We know what's going to happen the next day, but we have to execute this plan. And I told Jason, we have to stay in present time. Something my dad used to teach me is that you have to be, and especially on the bike, obviously on the run and the swim, big deal. But on the bike, that's where you can have your biggest, you can have an accident. you could hit something that I've seen people hit stuff that was right in front of them. Like, how did you not see that? And, you start daydreaming about your finish, or you start daydreaming about your PR, and suddenly you're not there and you don't react quick enough. So we were very studious about saying, we know what we have to do, but let's focus on here, right now. So at the swim that morning, I had a little bit of a different thing going through my mind, because the night before I was sitting with Matt Miller. We had dinner, the seven of us and some other support people. And Matt tells me at dinner, oh, by the way, Ironman is giving us blue swim caps. Please be down there like super early, because we're going to be the first in the water. Oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm a 140 swimmer. I do not want to be first in the water. So honestly, that's all I was thinking about, is I'm going to get run over here. But I did. I went in like 10th in the water, which was crazy.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you got a special swim cap for this then?
We had a blue swim cap, and I guess the idea was, especially for Matt's charity, is that we're going to try and video or film us in the beginning just to separate us out. It wasn't any special, but they wanted us in the front, because if we were in the middle, it was an absolute nightmare for me. I mean, the idea of being in the front of a swim race was petrifying. So my whole goal was get in the water and go straight to the right, like 25 yards, get out of everybody's way and just try and survive. And that's exactly what I did. It was scary. I'm not going to lie.
Wow.
That was a challenge.
So whenever you're actually getting ready to get down into the water, what was your mindset of this race? Just finish? Hey, everybody, I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast, and I just want to let you know that I've enjoyed having so many people on this show, and I couldn't really do it without your support. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and being a part of what I'm doing. If you would, take a few moments to leave me a review over on iTunes. It would help me out tremendously. And enjoy the show. So whenever you're actually getting ready to get down into the water, what was your mindset of this race? Just finish?
No, I knew that. So Chattanooga swim was canceled. So we knew that we could be there by 8:30 on the morning. So that gave me an extra hour's buffer. Prior to that day, I'd had to do a 13:45, which was going to be a 15-minute PR for me. 15:45 was going to get us, assuming no traffic issues and no breakdowns, we were going to get to Chattanooga with 15 minutes to spare. So knowing that the swim had been canceled and we were going to be going rolling starts, I was only going to go at 9:30 in Chattanooga. I knew that I could go 14:30, and 14:30 would still give me an hour's buffer, and that way I wouldn't tax myself as much and be ready for Chattanooga. So my plan was, no, I couldn't just go for 17 hours. We would not have made it. So I had a little bit of pressure to maintain, a little bit of a higher intensity, but I was ready from a T1 perspective. Normally I lollygag, I do 13 minutes. I went for 6 minutes, and then T2, I think I did like 40 seconds or something.
Wow. So get into the swim of Maryland. So I know the swim course here is 2 loops, and you have to basically go out, do a stick, and then do 2 loops, and then there's a timing mat under the water, and then you get out of the swim on the second loop, right?
That's correct, yeah. It's a really nice swim. I mean, it's I did it last year too. Last year it had jellyfish. This year there were none. It's a nice swim. I mean, it's I think this year a lot of people were complaining it was 500 yards longer. I don't really know, because I was on the right anyway. So I know I swam more than 2.4 miles, but it was a very easy swim. And then you kind of corral into this timing mat, the first loop, and then you go back out and do it again, and then you finish on the other side. I mean, it's a very nice, very calm swim. No problem at all.
Okay. Now, there's no jellyfish here, but you're still getting out there and doing your thing in the swim. How does the swim actually go for you? It took you about an hour and 35 minutes. Is that about normal for you?
No, normally I do like I guess I do. I don't even know my times. I haven't looked. I do about 125 to 130 depending on the conditions, but I definitely swam faster or harder, but I went wide because initially that first 3/4 of a mile, I was very concerned I was going to get run over, and maybe my fears were not correct because I didn't have any contact with anybody, although I did go to the right. I was swimming in my own lane effectively. So I knew I would take a little more time, but what was very important for me, the reason why going off early actually made sense, even though I was petrified, is that it helped me with time of day, because going off at 6:45 meant that I had an extra 15 minutes when normally I go off at 7. That 15 minutes was going to get me to the van quicker if I did 14:30 versus if I did 14:30 starting at 7 a.m. So time of day for me was very important. So it made sense. Hey, even if I get in earlier, if I save 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes spare for Chattanooga that I wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay. So now, whenever you get done with the swim, walk me through T1 for you at Maryland.
T1 was great. I came out the water. I had the wetsuit strippers gently pull my wetsuit off because I've been hurt before by very overzealous wetsuit strippers because that's what they're trying to do. So I was very careful about, making sure that's my wetsuit off slowly so I didn't get hurt, pull any back muscles or anything. I just, I jogged. I didn't sprint, but I was a little more urgent than normal. I got to T1 and grabbed my bag and had everything laid out methodically, went through everything. I didn't have much actually this time because all my food was on the bike, and I put my helmet on. I wiped myself down with a towel, put my shoes on, socks, shoes, and dropped my bag and went the heck out of there.
Nice. So you get out on the bike course. For the first few miles, how is this going for you? Did you have a specific plan of how you wanted to tackle this?
Yes. So the plan was, my usual plan for Ironman is the first 12 miles is warm-up. Basically, I'm sitting up. I'm not necessarily aero. I'm trying to get in some calories, drink calories. I'm trying to get in my salts because I'll start salting straight away. I always want to be an hour ahead of my salt. I never want to be behind. So I'll take my salts and anything I'm going to take. And I'll generally kind of just, ease my way into the ride, and then I'll do a century ride. That's the way I've generally taken it apart because the idea of doing 112 miles is a little scary. But this time I didn't have that luxury because I needed to move. So I just, I knew can't go too hard, but, let's get going here. We got to be in 7 hours because I got to get that run done in under 5 and 14:30 is the goal. So it was a good start. Everything was fine. And the course changed a little bit, which kind of caught me by surprise. Not that it made a difference, but it was a little like an out and back finger that wasn't there the last year we did it, but it was what it was. And it's a nice course, and, got out of town and then just started going.
Wow. So as far as the bike course goes, did you have a certain power or heart rate number you were looking at?
So I don't use power yet, and I'm going to be. I use heart rate. But actually what we did for this race is we used speed, and my coach Cliff put on my Garmin, he mapped out the bike course, and then we did an ETA. So we did a backwards calculation. And what I did was basically I had a little rev counter on my Garmin computer that said if you keep riding at this speed, you're going to be in at 4:00. And I knew my time to get in. So if I was going too fast, I'd say you're coming in at 3:30. I'm like, that means back off. So I was just trying to keep my ETA basically. And regardless, my heart rate runs high anyway, but we didn't have that luxury of going, well, if you hit 170, pull back. Because if I pull back, I'm not going to make the cutoff. So it was a little bit of a different animal. So it was just go on the speed and try and hold the speed.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, as far as your nutrition plan on the bike ride, I know that you want to be basically all liquid here for the most part with your Infinite. How are you doing with this? Did you have a certain time interval that you wanted to use?
So I didn't use Infinite. I use Carbo Pro and Tailwind.
Oh, okay.
And
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. And what I do is I had 3 bottles. So I had 6 hours of fuel on the bike. One was mixed with water already. The other 2 were empty because I didn't feel like I needed to carry that weight. And so I had 2 bottles. And then I had a bottle of water. And what I do is the way I do it is I front load my calories. So it's only half a bottle. I'll drink. So I normally round it up. So let's say I came out the water. I forget what I came out the water at, but it was a little bit earlier. I think I started doing it at 8:30 on Maryland. So at 8:30, I go, okay, every hour from now on, I will take my 3 salt tablets, my 2 base licks, and then I'll drink my, 250 or 220 calories of liquid. And I'll do that in a space of about 3 minutes. I'll just grab my bottle, drink, and I can see it's halfway down, put it down, grab some water, wash it out, take my 3 salt tablets, take my 2 salt licks, and then I'm down in the aero bars. I don't need to even think about it for the next hour. And then when 9:30 came, I did exactly the same thing. I just kept watching my watch. Okay, next half. And then, of course, at the second time, I realized I didn't have water, so I just stopped at the aid station for, 40 seconds. Put the water in the powder, mixed it up, put it back in, took my salts, and I just carried on doing that each hour.
Okay. So as far as the quality of the road here in Maryland, how was this for you?
So, excuse me, sorry, as what?
How was the quality of the road in Maryland?
Oh, the road is impeccable. I mean, I didn't see any. It was perfect. The road was fine.
Okay. So did you see any wrecks or mechanical issues?
I did not actually. So what I normally do is I normally will stop if people have flat tires. If someone gets hurt, I'll absolutely will stop. Last year in Maryland, I actually stopped for about 15 minutes for a guy that broke his collarbone right in front of me, and I lost a lot of time, but I didn't care. But this year I decided, unless someone's having an urgent emergency, I'm not stopping because I don't have time. Someone has a flat tire, I'm not stopping to help this time because I had to be selfish to get to Chattanooga on time. I don't remember seeing anything actually. There was a couple people that did some stupid stuff at aid stations, but I was a little bit ahead of them. But I didn't see anyone. In Maryland. It was a very uneventful bike course, which was quite unusual.
What do you mean somebody did some stupid stuff at an aid station?
Well, in every aid station, anytime anyone asks me, my friends ask me, what should I be scared about at an Ironman? I go, you got two places you're going to fall apart. One is when you're daydreaming on the bike, meaning you're not looking in front of you. And the other one is everybody at an aid station is going to try and kill you, meaning they're going to pull over and grab a banana and they're just going to clip in and immediately come out at 90 degrees to the right. Anticipate they're trying to kill you because they're stupid half the time. So I always watch these people. I always get my waters and stuff at the end. And I see so many accidents typically at aid stations because I don't know why people just don't pay attention. They just pull out. So I'm very, very aware of that particular place as a point of failure. And normally if you fall down going at 10 miles an hour, I actually think it's worse than falling at 40 because you bounce hard off the ground. So I'm very aware of aid stations, and I know when I pull up to one of those, I'm immediately thinking someone's going to take me out here, and that's just the way I think because I see so much stuff there.
Okay. Now, as far as the bike ride goes, how do you know how hard to push in the earlier stages versus the later stages of the bike ride?
Just averaged out by speed. I know that we knew that if I held, say, 16 or 17 miles an hour on average, basically on my ETA, that that's about where my heart rate would be around 160, 170 average. And then that means I would have enough for the run. If I started going above 170, we were going to have some problems.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a different strategy, and it's purely based because I don't have power. And also because I'm getting power actually this next week, and I'll be getting power. Everything will be power from now on.
Nice. What kind of power meter are you getting?
I'm getting the Garmin Vector 3s.
Nice. I have the Garmin Vector 2s.
Okay, yeah. I had the ones before, but they didn't work very well, so now we're going to go for the 3s.
Nice. So, as far as the bike ride goes, is there anything you'd tell someone to be aware of that hasn't done this bike course before?
So, it's talking to my coach for the race debrief, having done Chattanooga bike the following day, way more hilly. To me, the flat course in Maryland is actually not any easier than a hilly course. If your strategy is wrong, you could actually blow up quickly on a flat course. The only thing I would tell someone who's never done a flat course or has this dream that flat's easy is you have to pedal coast, meaning whatever your top speed is. Let's say you're an 18 mile an hour athlete. If you're going for 6 hours and you ride hills, you're getting recovery. When you ride Maryland, you're getting no recovery, especially if the wind comes up. You're pedaling, so your heart gets no break unless you pedal coast. So you get up to 20 and then you coast for 5 seconds. Get up to 15 and coast. That's like some serious discipline. But that course is a PR's dream. It does have wind, but it's circular. So if you get wind in your face, you get it behind you too at some point. So you just got to know that. And it's a great course. It's the best I've done on a bike on both of those days. Is both Maryland days. Yeah, I've done Florida, but Florida was crazy headwinds, So Maryland would be a great course, but you can't just rock up there thinking it's flat and I'm going to go and slay this. It's you're going to fall apart on the run.
Okay. Now, as far as the later portions of the bike ride, miles 60, 70, 80, 90, and even into the lower hundreds, how are you holding up mentally? Because usually a lot of people struggle with the mental game on the later portion of the bike ride.
It's the only reason I finished Ironman is because I'm a mental juggernaut. I think I don't have the physical ability to do this race. I actually struggle more in the beginning than I did in the end because once I clear halfway, then I'm like, I've done half already. I get more pumped up to get out of there. But we have dark periods, and anyone who says they don't is not pushing enough or is just lying. How do I get through? I write these little things in my hands. One of my sayings is life is good. And then another thing I write is, and I learned this from when I was in Zurich last year. I had a really tough time. I had food poisoning, and I couldn't drown out the negative thoughts because they were just, I was like, I need to stop. I need to quit. And I wrote this thing I started saying this thing that I am strong, which is so dumb. But once you say it, you can't actually entertain the other thought. So every now and again, when I'm struggling, I just say, man, I can do this. I've done this before. Or there's other people that are, in a hospital room dying of cancer. I'm privileged to be out here. I know it sucks, but I did voluntarily sign up for this, and I'm nearly done. I've got 40 miles left, and then when I hit 30 miles, I have 20 miles left. Anyone can do a 20-mile ride, and I forget about the past, and I go, sweet, I didn't ride 100. I've got 15 left, and then I get pumped. So I mentally try and push that way, but I struggle just like everyone else.
Okay. Now, whenever you start getting ready to get off the bike at T2, you're at mile 100, 110, 111, 112, getting ready to get off the bike. Are you doing anything to start preparing to start running here?
No. What I'm thinking is, back to present time, is get off the bike safely, because there's another position where you can fall off your bike really quickly. You come in, you think that you're going to race off the bike, you're going to slip on your ass, you're going to do something dumb, crash into somebody. So I'm thinking dismount safely and take my bike shoes off. And I've already done my transition is already in my head. I walk into transition T2, I'm ready to go. I'm in and out of there. The hardest part is getting my bag. So I'm thinking to myself, what is my pace going to be off the run? I'm also telling myself that, remember that those first 3 miles are always hell. I know that from training. I know that from every other Ironman I've done. Those first 3 miles, I don't know about everybody else, but I always think there's no way I could do 26 or 24 more of this, 3 more of this. But I just know that those first 3 miles are hell. So I just throw those away. I'm like, it's going to be hell for 3 miles. And then every time around 3 miles, I loosen up. I feel better. And I'm like, okay, now it's gone. So I just prep for those first 3 miles and try and get off the bike safely, because, you can fall off and get concussions and all sorts of things.
Okay. So whenever you get to T2 is going to be pretty smooth here. You're in and out of there in under 5 minutes. How does the first few miles of this run go for you this time, knowing that you kind of already have an idea of what's going on and what it normally happens? What is actually happening for you at Maryland?
Yeah, so this one, the risk for this one was going to be to come out too hard, too fast, because you feel good off the bike, in a weird kind of way. Your legs are spinning really well. Your RPM is high. So it's very easy to come out there and start doing 8-minute miles. If I run out there and do 8-minute miles, at mile 15, I will be on the side of the road being carried off in a stretcher, because I don't have that kind of fitness to maintain, So becoming very aware of pulling back in the beginning when you are feeling good. That is what my coach has always, hammered to me. Like, you got a long day, Julian. Ironman is this physical stuff. Your brain, I feel like your brain is a little bit of ahead of your body sometimes. Meaning on the bike too, you feel so good. Oh, I'm gonna push harder. Yep, the taxes are coming, and they may come at mile 18, and they may come at mile 29 when you're done. But for me, they can come at mile 15. So bear in mind, I got to take it easy and just work the plan and just be patient, which is very much the antithesis of my personality. So I have very, very hard battles at Ironman, and they're not necessarily swim, bike, and run. They're holding back. They're be patient. It's like stuff that's not my normal mindset. So just listen to coach, stick to the plan. Definitely don't run over 12 minute pace, because I will blow up. And for this one especially, once I hit off the bike, I knew I had 5 hours to make 14:30. So I'm like, I'm exactly where I need to be. Just follow the plan. And once I got off the bike, I felt confidence. Like, okay, I got this. I'm on track for everywhere I was going to be, because if I had a really bad bike, then I was going to be scrambling on the run. That's why I did not want to be there.
Right. Now, whenever you get to the second and third aid stations, what are you taking at the aid stations here?
Every aid station, so I do a run walk strategy. Normally it's 3 minutes on, 1 minute off. Sometimes I'll do 4 minutes on, 1 minute off, depending on what I can feel. But aid stations, I always stop, especially when it's hot. And it wasn't hot in Maryland, but the sun was out. I'll cover myself in water on my head, always trying to keep my core temperature down if I can. I find that for me that helps. And I don't really take too much as far as calories wise. I'll drink water. I don't want to get into the Coke or the Gatorade stuff just yet. I feel first 5 or 6 aid sessions, maybe I'll eat some bananas or a little bit of orange or something. But I'm fueled from the bike, and that's the whole thing. I realize I'm fueled and I'm salted properly on the bike for those first 5 miles. And once I try to get to like mile 6.2, because then I go, okay, I've only got 20 left. Because in the beginning, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do 26 miles. I've never run a marathon before standalone, so it's always daunting for me. But I'm just trying to keep my temperature down, trying to keep my pace correct. And then I'm watching my form. I'm just thinking about my form and just, okay, here we go. I can do this. And then, so one step at a time.
Okay. Now, as far as the run goes, did you have any cramping or GI issues?
Nope, I've never had cramping or GI issues.
Wow. Now, whenever you start thinking of the special needs on the run, did you have anything in the special needs?
I did, but I never used them. Special needs, I treat special needs on the run as emergency needs. What I mean by that is I will put Band-Aids, I'll put Vaseline, I'll put spare socks. And that's basically in my mind. Let's say I run through a puddle, or let's say it's pouring with rain, or let's say I get a really bad blister that I don't normally get because I've been very studious with my shoes. But stuff happens. Then I have the ability to change out. But it's more of an emergency. I don't think I've ever used special needs on the run. I've always had it, but I've never used it.
Okay.
It's a waste of time. And generally I have everything with me. Oh, I will put in special needs. I always put a whole bunch of spare salt in case I lose my salt, but I've never lost my salt. So I've always been able to hold on to it.
Okay. Now, as far as the run goes, miles 11 through 15, how are these miles going for you?
Miles 11 through 15. Let me think about that. For me, well, let's see. 11, I think, is the turnaround in Maryland where you you get the energy of the finish line. You kind of come around. It like teases you. You like hear other people finishing. And you're like, oh my God, I got a whole half marathon to go. But once I cross there, for me mentally, I feel like I'm more than halfway. And again, just like the bike, once I get over 13, I'm like, I'm home. Now it's just be patient. I feel like the first 13 are the hardest for me because I'm like, oh man, that's so far to go. As I start picking one thing I do that's really, I don't know if it's stupid or not, but I will touch every single mile marker on the run, every single one. So as I hit the first one, I will touch that one and say, I'm done with you. And then there'll be mile 14 in front of me. And then I'll touch that one and say, I'm coming back for you. So I have these little conversations with these mile markers and then when I come back, I go, yeah, I told you I was coming back for you, and I'll touch it again. I'm done with you. So it's like these little battles I have in my head just so that I can sustain that energy and to get to the next one.
I wouldn't say it's a battle. I say it's more like a uplifting moment.
Yeah, it's my coping mechanism. I'm like fighting with that sign. I'm gonna come back for you, and when I do, I'm like, yeah, I told you I'd come back for you. So,
all right,
it's a stupid thing.
So on your watch, what data screens are you looking at?
On my watch, I have heart rate, time of day, and pace.
Okay. And what are you trying to do with each one of those? Are you wanting to keep your heart rate below a certain number, pace above a certain number, lower? What is this?
So normally, yes. I'm trying to keep my heart rate below 170. Coach is like, as soon as you hit 170, I want you to walk for a minute, try and bring it down. But as you know, at the end of the race, you bring it down off the... Yeah, you bring it down for a minute and 10 seconds later, it's back up to where it is. But I really can't exceed 170 on the run. So it's just a monitor, just to make sure I'm not going over. And at the moment, I kind of know my heart rate. And then time of day, I'm just trying to see where I am because I know where I am on the course mile-wise. And it's just time of day. Normally, I have a set in mind where I need to go. So I don't know why I have that actually, but that's what I have.
Okay. Now, whenever you checked into Maryland, you were probably given some bracelets to give to volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
So who did you give yours to?
So I actually took 5. And normally they give you 1. I gave 1 to the swim, one of the body markers because they were up there early. And then I gave the rest on the run because I didn't have a chance to stop at the bike. But I gave, you know what? I think I kept 1. I think I gave 3 on the run at different aid stations. There was one lady that was I kept seeing her. Oh, there was a lady at the turnaround. There was like a third little loop turnaround. And I said to her, I'm going to see her soon. And we joked about it twice when I ran by. I think I gave her one, but just the volunteers on the course. I always thank the volunteers, even if I don't give them something, because they, without them, we've got no chance, you know? And they're so helpful. They are so helpful.
Okay. Now, as far as the race itself goes at Maryland, what was the funniest thing that you saw during the day?
Funniest thing? Yeah, I don't remember anything funny happening. I'm sorry. Funny. I was so focused that, it was a little bit of a different, even though I said prior that we were in present time, there's no doubt that I was still thinking, I knew that the mammoth task, my goal was to get to that van, and oh my gosh, it was going to happen. Funny. I don't think anything funny happened. There was nothing bad happened. It was a very uneventful race, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's really no hills on this course at all. It's pretty much flat the whole way through, right?
Right.
Now, as far as somebody that hasn't done this run course before, what advice would you give them for this?
If they haven't done the run, wow, this is probably, if I had to pick, so I've done 9 races. If I had to pick the fastest run course, it would be this one or Texas or maybe Florida. And what I love about this run course is that, for example, I don't like Arizona run course, and because I can see so far down the road, and it's like a mental problem. Maryland, you can really see more than a quarter mile in front of you. There's a turn. So anyone that hasn't done this course, man, if you're ready off the bike, you could have a PR this day. This is a great day to. It can get hot those first couple hours if you're fast off the bike, but the sun does go down around that time, around 5 o'clock, 5:30. It starts to cool down nicely. And it's just a fantastic run course. There's not too much crowd support, which is kind of good and bad. There's sections where you're by yourself, which I kind of like. And then there's sections where you're with people. So it's a good mix. It's a very nice run.
Okay. Now, whenever you start getting into the later portions of the run, 17, 18, 19, even 20, how are you holding up mentally? I know that you're like a mental juggernaut, but how are you holding up here?
Once I get to those miles, I'm just smiling, man, because I know I got this. And I'm very studious about staying on my salt because that's when you can also make a mistake and say, oh, I feel good, and then stop consuming your salt at the hour. And all of a sudden, at mile 23, you may be stopping and trying to crawl your way home. So I'm very studious about staying on my nutrition. And I will normally at around mile 16, I'll start consuming Coke because I love the sugar high I get from the Coke. And the fizziness, because I've been drinking that sweet garbage all day that's just got no flavor. And then I'll normally, if I'm not going for time, I'll normally talk to a lot of people. So I don't know if you've been in a race that late. The people that you meet at that time of the night are a very unique bunch. None of us should be there. And none of us should be doing an Ironman, and we're all sticking it to whoever's telling us we can't. And so, yeah, people are struggling. We're walking, we're hobbling. And so I'll normally meet 5 or 10 people and get them to run more. We'll have a good laugh about something. And so I actually enjoy that part of the race tremendously. 17, once I hit 17, I'm done. I mean, I know I just gotta hang on now.
Wow. So
yeah, no problem.
How are the final few miles for you here?
Oh, great. I mean, it was great because I was looking at my watch and I was like, are you kidding me? I'm going to be like 2 minutes before 14:30 because I knew my time. And I was like, that is crazy that I could come out, execute a race exactly as my coach said within 2 minutes. I mean, we were coming in at 14:30 plan. I could have done 14. There's no doubt I could have done sub 14 because when I got off the bike, I was feeling great. At about mile 13, my coach always says at mile 19, I can do whatever I want to do. Meaning you've got a 10K left. If you're salted, ready to go, sprint home. And, I knew that I could do 20, 30 minutes better. But I also knew I had the luxury of that extra time. So I was like, well, he said to me, if you get to the point, rather conserve the energy because you're going to need it in Chattanooga tomorrow. So had I been standalone race, I would have done sub 14 for sure. But I actually pulled back a little bit and just said, okay, I'll just hang in here. And I was just smiling. I was loving it because I knew I was going to make the van and I knew we were going to make it to Chattanooga. So all of a sudden I switched to, okay, we got this, I hope my crew guy has done all he's done. I started thinking about getting the medal and getting the heck out of there.
Wow.
That was my thoughts. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So how was the finish shoot here? Being that this is a looped course, you pass by the finish line a few times before you actually get to go to the finish. Now you actually get to go to the finish. How was this for you?
It's great. I mean, it's not the biggest finish line in Ironman. I mean, and also maybe not the biggest field. And I don't know why. I think the race has got some hiccups from past weather issues, which, I mean, is quite weird because I guess it happens in every race. It's not the biggest finish shoot, but everyone's really nice and they're applauding and excited and you kind of run sort of away from the finish you run up this like little bit of there's one little hill. It's a very tiny hill, maybe 300 or 400 yards. You run kind of up and then you loop around these restaurants and everyone's cheering for you there. And then you kind of run down into the finish shoot. So you get to see and hear it for a ways out. So your heart goes up and you're excited and you've done it. And then, I finished and it was great. People were there. My van driver was right there to pick me up and got my medal, took my picture and said, let's get going. And we literally ran into the car.
Wow. So after you finish, you get into the car and y'all immediately get on the road?
Yep. Within like 5 minutes, I took my tri-suit off, put my watch in its place, had my bike computer, got all my stuff sorted out and started charging everything as per the plan. We had a whole plan. I climbed in the back of the car. My van driver had organized some protein shakes for me, some chocolates, and I then attempted to sleep, which did not happen.
Okay. So
and then he started driving. We had 700 miles to go. So we got on the road probably 10 minutes after I crossed the finish line. We were on the freeway.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how was that night here? Because you obviously needed sleep. You needed recovery. You needed to fuel and prepare for the next day. But what actually happened?
So one of the things we clearly talked about is that how on earth are you going to do any kind of physical endeavor after an Ironman, even if it's just take a 1 mile swim without rest? That's much easier said than done. For me personally, I don't sleep for 2 days after a normal Ironman. I do not sleep 1 minute. So I was like, this is going to be my challenge. How am I going to do this? But I was like, well, I'm going to be tired. Didn't happen. So I lay down in the back. I had a little blow-up mattress in the back of the van. I lay there for about an hour with my eyes wide open, posting on Facebook, messaging my coach, and couldn't sleep. So I went and sat in the front of the van and basically talked to my driver, who's a friend of mine, for the next 9 hours and didn't eat, didn't drink anything. I mean, didn't sleep at all. Just, it was what it was.
So did y'all try to get like a meal plan through the night, being that y'all were on the road so long and you couldn't really do anything and you need to fuel? What would y'all eat?
Well, my driver, Juan, I told him, you better have anything you're going to eat. You better eat a big meal before you come get me, which he could do. And then you better have snacks because we're not stopping. I mean, we got to go. We stop for gas. That's all we have time for. For me, he got me some chicken with some rice and I didn't eat it. I can't eat after Ironman. I don't know why everyone else seems to eat and sleep. That's the last thing I want to do is eat. I'm like, just keep food away from me. I want Sprite. That's all I want. So I actually happened to, luckily I asked him to get me some chocolates and I ate about 7 or 8 of those small little Halloween candies. And I had 2 muscle milk protein shakes because I figured I could drink it. And I basically forced myself. That was all I had leading into Chattanooga Mall. I couldn't eat.
Wow. So you just stayed up all night talking and...
Yep, pretty much. Stayed up talking and watching the road. And, I laid in the back of the chair in the front of the car. But watching the road, we're talking about... we were just talking. Yeah, it was quite crazy. I knew I had to sleep, but just couldn't do it. So wired.
Wow. So you get to Chattanooga... Y'all find somewhere to park, and you realize, okay, I didn't sleep a wink. Now I got to go and do this again. How was this for you?
This was, training for Ultraman. Ultraman is, 3 days. You're racing on fatigue, so it becomes a mental game too. So I wanted the challenge. I wanted to see how would I feel? Would I have the guts, the ability to, get out of the van? I jumped out of the van. I was ready to go. I mean, I was quite surprised. It was a little bit of a panic because we only had about 10 minutes to get down there and we had this big van that we couldn't park at the hotel. So we parked on the side of the street somewhere and threw everything out of the van. So, right, let's pack the bags because one of the problems with Chattanooga is that we were going to drop our bags, but the swim was canceled. So then we were like, well, let's just do the bags on the morning of the race. All I need is my run shoes and my food and glasses. And so we scrambled, we packed everything, and we raced down. And I think one of the things that helped me as well is the other 6 guys that were doing it, and there was 1 girl, so 5 guys, 1 girl, and me. None of them slept either. So I kind of felt like, well, I'm not the only one that hasn't slept, that is about to go and attempt a second Ironman. And I felt fine. I got down there. I was kind of anticipating really being tired. I was a bit like a zombie, but I was excited to be down there. And then I felt the energy of the village and everybody around the bikes. And I felt like a normal Ironman. It wasn't really, I wasn't concerned. I didn't actually have time to be concerned. I was so scrambling.
Wow. So now then you get to your bike and you get everything basically ready to go as you're getting into the line to get out, because it's a time trial start a minute apart for 4 people, right?
No, it was, well, they said it was 6 seconds for 2 people, but it landed up becoming quicker than that towards the end. I think initially it was, but it worked out to be about 20 people a minute or something. Okay.
So whenever you get out, where are you at in relationship to the race? Are you
5? I'm at the 5th to last person.
Wow. So you're at the end.
Yeah. I'm at the end. And I'm at the end because we registered late, because we registered the week before. So my number was 2,703, and I think Jason was 2,712, and it was maybe 2,718 people. I mean, it was like crazy. And so I think at one point, Matt Miller, man, bless that guy's soul. He's an amazing guy. He dropped back to ride with me, like right next to me and behind me, to see how I was doing. And I'm pretty sure for about 10 miles, there was no one else on the course within 100 yards behind me or 300 yards in front of me. I was the last cyclist. And then at one point, some of not the pros, I think the pros even had gotten ahead of me on the second loop, but some of the fast age groupers caught me on, I think I saw like 20 age groupers, and that was it. I never saw anybody else the rest of the day. I was basically rode that course by myself.
Wow.
Because I came off the back. Well, no, it was actually great. I came off the back and I'm not strong, and I was my second Ironman. So I knew I was going to have to, hold 15, 16 miles an hour. I'd never done that course before, and I didn't know how my body was going to feel from the day before, but it was amazing because 5 or 6 miles in, I felt fantastic. I mean, I almost, if you'd stopped me and said, hey, you had a nightmare that you did an Ironman yesterday, I'd believe it was a nightmare. I didn't feel like I'd done an Ironman yesterday. My legs felt fine. My back felt fine. I was alert. I was ready, and I was loving the hill. That course is beautiful. Chattanooga bike course, I think is my favorite bike course.
Yeah, I've done the 70.3 there earlier this year, and I've done the full there. And I love that bike course for one reason, because especially for the 70.3, it's so engaging that you can literally just go out, ride it, and when you get back, you're like, wow, that went quick. Like, you're always going up, down, turning, going up, or something, and then you're like, you look to your right, wow, there's some mountains. Oh, that's pretty cool, and it's pretty.
No, it is the fantastic bike course. I mean, that course is amazing.
Now, how was it whenever you got to Chickamauga?
When I did what?
When you got to Chickamauga, the little city that everybody is out at?
Oh, well, when I arrived there, I was like one of the last guys, so there wasn't that many people there.
Oh, really?
I mean, no. I mean, there was maybe 50 people. I mean, everybody was, and the second loop, everything was closed because I came in, I was pretty late. Everything was closed. The whole town was closed.
Wow. So the aid stations, did you have any issues with the aid stations?
No, they were all open, but they were happy to see me basically. I was one of the last guys. They were like, "Wait, can we close up now?"
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not realize that you were one of the last people on the bike ride here.
Yeah, I did not catch up to. And let me take that back. I maybe passed 5 or 6 people. I did not catch up to or even see anyone that was like my peers, meaning, the 15, 16 mile per hour guys. They were all an hour in front of me. I mean, there was at least half an hour in front of me. There was no one in front of me that was, that I was catching really.
Wow. Now, whenever you actually think of the road quality here, how was the road quality for you?
Road quality was, I mean, I don't remember at all. There was maybe one little section where I think there was one section where we crossed some railway tracks with some mats, and I don't know who put those mats out there, but I was like, man, surely that could be a better arrangement. But I just, leaned back over my seat and got over them. But I didn't have any problems with the roads. I mean, roads were fine. I didn't see any issues. Roads were great. The gate were cambered good. I mean, I didn't have any problems.
Did you have a strategy of how you wanted to attack this bike ride versus the day before? Did you want to go a little bit lower on power, or not power, but heart rate or RPE?
So this race, the whole game plan went out the window because it became a time trial bike. And all of a sudden I realized that I had to do 58 miles and I had to be in by 2:15. And I only got on the road through my time. They had a hard cutoff. They said at 2:15, come hell or high water, you better be here or we're shutting you down. So my race went from 112 miles to 58 because I knew in order for me to hit 58, I would have to push hard just to make that cutoff. So the original plan was push the hills, coast the downs. I threw coach's plan out the window at about mile 1 because I was like, if I do that, I will not make the 2:15 cutoff because I think I got on the road at like 5 till 10.
Oh my
gosh. Yeah, so it was losing the swim actually hurt me way more. I would have been way ahead of the game because I would have done a 1 hour 10 swim there and transitioned fast. I would have had like 9 hours for the bike, because you had a 10-hour combination. So it actually put some serious pressure on me, and I had to, on the fly, change my plan. The very interesting part, my coach and I talked about this, was I'm riding up this hill. Matt Miller's next to or near me, and I'm riding up this one of the steepest parts of this hills, and I'm pushing because I know I got to push the hills. And I looked down at my heart rate, 145, and I'm thinking to myself, this is very, very strange. I'm only running 170 right now. I did not top 160 all day, and I averaged about 148. So because my body, coach said, because my body was under so much fatigue and I gained some fitness, the body just will not allow you to accelerate. But I was working just as hard. So it was quite fascinating to see such a low heart rate when I was outputting so much. I mean, I made that cutoff with like 20 minutes. So I knew that I did really good. And then I was like, okay, on to the next cutoff, So it was a mental challenge because I had to do my own thing. I didn't have coach to call, and the bike computer didn't work. We had that ETA. It didn't work for Chattanooga. So I was like, oh, crap, I'm on my own here.
Wow.
And so that was an adaptation.
Wow. So did you see any flats on the bike course at Chattanooga?
One or two flats, but I actually had a big problem. I had a problem. Some guy fell in front of me, not very hard, and I had to slam on my brakes, and my rear wheel brakes closed and they wouldn't let go. So I got off my bike and I was trying to, loosen them. My hands, I had no tools and I couldn't move them off. I'm like, oh my gosh, my race, I don't have time. Like I don't have 10 minutes, because I'm under the gun here. And I started pushing my bike up the hill, just trying to keep going and maybe get a SAG vehicle. And within about, I don't know, a minute, a SAG vehicle popped out of nowhere. And I waved him down. The guy came over. He had to be going within a minute. It was incredible.
Wow.
But I didn't see much because, like I said, I was way behind. So I saw no accidents, no people, no flats. I saw bottles everywhere, but that was just, the usual stuff.
Right. So whenever you start getting to the second loop here, you know that you're going to be making the cutoff, obviously. How was the way back in from the lollipop? Because this is a 2-loop lollipop, and then you come back in on the stick. How was this for you?
I'd never done that section back. I was cursing. I mean, talk about mental problem at that. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Every time I was on this big freeway, and I'm like, surely we're going to make a cut down to the city because I've never done it. I'm like, how can it be this long? I felt like I was going in the wrong direction because there was no one else out there. And that was a tough time for me because another part happened is I didn't know if I was going to make the cutoff on the second loop because I didn't remember. They said that we had 8 hours and 10 minutes, and I didn't know when I went off exactly. I thought it was like 9:51, but it was at 9:45. I didn't really know. So I kind of started getting a bit of a panic attack 10 miles in, and I was like, I better hammer it. But I was tired, So I'm like, okay, well, I can do this. And that was it. It was that last 10 miles was tough for me mentally. Wow. I was like, am I making it? Am I not? Should I stop? Should I go? So it was a challenge.
Wow. And then not only that, it's also 116 miles, not
right.
112. So you're getting
right.
4 extra here.
Yeah. And for someone like me, that's 25 minutes. That's no someone like you or the fast guys, they do that and they chew that up quick. For me, that's another 20 minutes at least. And at the end of a double day. So it's fraught with challenges, not going to lie.
Wow. So you're not really doing anything to prepare to get into T2, but you kind of have an idea of how T2 is laid out and all this stuff. You get to T2. How does T2 go for you?
So I come off the bike. Thank God my friend Jennifer from Ultraman just happens to be there. She's like, go, Julian. I get off the bike. I turn to her and I go, Jennifer, tell me, did I make the bike cut off under 8:10? She goes, Julian, you're 25 minutes ahead or 20 minutes ahead. You're golden. Dump my bike shoes, literally take them off right there. That's my new strategy. Take my bike shoes off, throw my bike to the volunteer, and I just start sprinting down the chute because my bag was right at the end because I was the last bag. I'm literally sprinting down the chute, 100 yards. I mean, fastest I've ever run off the bike. I'm feeling amazing. In my mind, I'm like, I can't wait to run. I don't really like running, but I'm like, I cannot wait to get this going. I got this. And I get to the end, I call out my number, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, you don't have your bag here. I'm like, what? They're like, let's look. And they start scrambling, and now they're running. Now all of a sudden there's people, and it's 2 or 3 minutes, and they're like, your bag's not here. And there was only about 30 bags left. So I think I'd passed about 25 people somewhere along the way at 8 stations or something. There was about 30 bags left. So they couldn't find my bag. And so the guy, they were super helpful. The guy goes, look, go sit in a tent, get a glass of water. We'll find your bag. And so I go, and I didn't sit down. I was standing around, and then all of a sudden the race director guy was there, and then there was like another manager was there. Like, what's your number again? And more started going, where's my bag? You know, like, I don't have run shoes. I don't have salt. I don't have, you know, my run bib, all that kind of stuff, my hat. But anyway, so then I made the fateful mistake of sitting down. And I sat down thinking, okay, they'll find it within 5 minutes. It was about 25, 28 minutes. They brought me a third pair of run shoes, and they were size too big, or maybe 2 sizes too big. I don't know. They were trying, and they're like, just go. I'm like, okay, you know, let me just go. I figured if I had 6.5 hours, I could do the marathon second day. But by now I was down to like 6 hours maybe, and I was going to have to really push. So I left, you know, I got out. I had nothing, no run bib, no hat, no salt, but I had shoes. And I exited and started walking out, and then I got completely stopped again by the volunteers because they were like, you have no run bib, you cannot continue. So 5 minutes goes by, they communicate back, and the guy comes out, no, let him go. I now restart my run again. Now I'm 35 minutes or so out, and I started walking up that first hill, and I get gang tackled a second time by 2 really nice volunteers like, where's your run bib? And I'm like, well, you know, they lost my bag. And they're like, yeah, I don't think you can run without a run bib. You know, and I get it. It's because people cheat, whatever. But so they land up eventually letting me go. And then I get tagged a third time, maybe 500 more yards. And I'm like, I cannot do this for, you know, I can't be stopped a minute every.
They needed somebody to escort you on a bike or something, saying, hey, he's got to go. Like,
yeah.
I understand he doesn't have a bib.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was not upset with them. I get it, man. People, I don't believe people cheat. I can never understand that, but people cheat. So they're like, you know, we don't know who you are, and why are you running without a bib? This is weird. And they don't have radios because they're just regular volunteers. It's not like they're communicating back and forth. And it's not like they're at big aid stations, you know. So, and at that point, because I had sat down for 25 minutes, and I've never done this before often, I've never stopped that much and then gone and tried to exercise. My body was locking up. I mean, I was not in a good place. If I just kept running, I would have been fine, but I cooled down. And then so the only thing in my thought at that point was like, just get to the next aid station, get some Coke, get some salt in your body, be patient, and then we can get this back, because I know I can do it. But by that third time, I just took my run chip off and said, take my run chip and turn it in, please. I'm done. Yeah. So, but what actually happened with the bag wasn't IRONMAN's fault. It was my fault. So what happened is when we got out of the van in the morning and we were rushing to get down there, I had 2 run bags with me because I had Maryland that my friend Juan had picked up, and then I had my new shack bag. So we lay everything out on the sidewalk, and I'm packing. Okay, I need my run shoes, and I've got everything I need, and either me or him put it in the wrong bag. So when I got to T2 in the morning to check my bag, I was going to go place my bag. I couldn't get to T2. You know, it's in the middle, right between the bike and the outside. I literally stood on the outside of the bike and screamed to a volunteer, can I throw you my bag? Can you put it down for me? And they're like, no problem. So I pulled my bag out of another bag and hurled it over to them. Well, that was my Maryland number. So they placed my bag, was 1362 or whatever. So when I came off the run, I'm looking for 2,700. It wasn't there, but 1362 was there. And I didn't know I'd mixed the bag up. So it wasn't them that lost it. It was there the whole time. I inadvertently, and because I didn't get a chance to place it, I would have seen it. You know, if I'd gone to place it, I would have seen, wait a minute, why does it say 1,300 in the middle of 2,700? So it was the perfect sum of issues, if you want to say.
Wow. Well, I hate that your race ended like that, but it seems like you learned a lot and you even did a little bit of self-discovery out there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was not, you know, I mean, look, I really don't, I don't take this stuff very seriously. I have a lot of fun. Stuff happens. I haven't DNF'd at an Ironman before, but my first ever half Ironman, I broke my leg on an uphill. Someone crashed into me. So I just take it as it is. I know it's never going to be easy. I know it's never going to be, you can't take it for granted. And this is not life or death. This is just an Ironman. This is just me going out there, trying to, push some limits for myself and meeting fun people along the way. And, you get what you get. And yeah, I mean, it did bother me a bit that I made that mistake, but in hindsight, there was like so many things that conspired for me not to be able to have my run bag that maybe I wasn't supposed to run. I mean, I'm doing Kentucky in next weekend. So who knows? Maybe that run would have messed me up and I couldn't have done Kentucky. So I don't look at it like that. I definitely won't make that mistake again, but I'll never have two run bags to mix up again either. So, it's an interesting conundrum.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You said Kentucky. Are you going to Louisville next weekend?
Yeah, I'm doing Louisville next weekend.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll be there. I'll get to see you.
Yes, absolutely. We talked about this. Yes. You forgot.
Yeah, I did. I talked to many people.
I know.
Yeah, so that's going to be awesome.
Be awesome, yeah.
So as far as looking back on everything, how enjoyable of an experience was this?
Oh, it was like on a scale of 1 to 10, it was like a 12. It was insane. We met so many cool people. Jason and I had a fantastic time in the car. Jason probably doesn't have any ears left and he pushes he'll never see me again for another month. But no, we had so much fun. We had two really good Sherpas. This one guy called John Reardon, who's an ultraman who gave up his time and flew up from Orlando to just basically follow these two clowns across the country. And then my other friend Juan, and we just kind of bonded. It was a really cool experience, and met a bunch of people in Maryland from before that I knew, and it was amazing. There's nothing I would change. What I would like to do is maybe have the correct stickers on my run bag and see if I could have done that next marathon. But to be honest, there's no guarantees, as you know, that I would have even finished it. So the other guys all said that they thought I would have finished it, and I believe I would have, because I would have had time to walk. I would have had 7 hours, and I can do that. But that being said, I learned a lot for Ultraman. I was really tired, and coming off that second bike, I've never felt that good before, ever, going into a run. I mean, ironically as that sounds, I was like, I'm going to be crawling, I'm going to be dying. I was ready to go. Running was going to be no problem for me. So, so I got good confidence out of it for Ultraman, and it was a great training weekend. It's the way I look at it, and I got a medal. So I'm not, worse things could have happened.
Right. Now, just to kind of put this in perspective, are you going to try this again in the future, just to go back and accomplish this double weekend, being that you kind of started it but you didn't really finish it?
I would love to say yes. The problem is I'm anticipating Ironman is not going to allow this again, because I think a lot of other people are probably going to want to do the same thing. And Ironman doesn't want to get into the game of, having people do what we did. What we did was extreme, potentially maybe even unsafe if you consider we were, doing 2 races in one day. I don't think this is something that they're even going to allow again. So while I would certainly do it if I was given the chance, I have no desires for revenge. I mean, I'm doing 2 Ultramen next year, and I'm doing Ultraman Florida and Ultraman Canada, and then in 2020 I haven't announced it yet, but I got a nice big project that's going to make double Ironman seem like a walk in the park. So there's a lot of things that I've got to do. I would love to have the chance, but I'm not sure Ironman's going to let us.
Wow.
And it wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't blame them. It was like a once-off almost. That's the way I looked at it.
Okay. Now, as far as Ironman, how could they have made your experience better?
They couldn't have. I mean, they did everything. They did everything that that I expect Ironman to do. I really like that organization. I know they get a lot of heat, and a lot of people were mad that the swim was cancelled. But people are dying in races. It's bad enough when you've got no bad conditions. So, Ironman could have done nothing better for me. I mean, were going to give me an exception that they promised no one else could get. So they didn't hamper me. They were nice to me. The crew at the end of the tent were desperately trying to find my bag, and they got me some shoes. They did everything they could. There's nothing that Ironman, they accommodated me to have the bikes dropped off. So I was very grateful for that. So I have nothing but good things to say about them. And that's why I race Ironman. That's why, I know some people like the independence, which I don't mind, but I know what I get from Ironman, and it's, and I love the people there. So there's nothing they could have done for me. They did everything.
Wow. So we covered a lot about your races. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, not really. That's it. And I got Kentucky coming up, and then 2 weeks after Kentucky, I do a race with my 10-year-old son. He's doing his second sprint triathlon. And then I'll be in Florida for number 11 if everything goes good in Kentucky. And then Arizona, 2 weeks later, I'll be doing number 12. So hopefully I'll sew up a Kona Legacy spot this year, which was always going to be my goal. And I'll have, yep, in 2 years. Started in
12 Ironman in 2 years.
Yep. If these next three go according to plan, as you know, it doesn't always work like that. But hopefully on November the 18th, I will get my 12th medal and I'll be Legacy certified or be able to enter Legacy.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's fun. But, again, these races, none of them have been fast. I've done everything just, methodically and slowly. So next year, I'll do Ultraman. And then starting next year, I will never do another 16-hour Ironman unless it's, I'll be shooting for 12:30 and 13, those kind of times. I'll be coming for speed next year, but this year was just about getting the medals.
Wow. So what's next for you next year aside from Ultraman and one Ironman every year until you get Legacy?
Next year, I'm doing Ultraman Florida in February. I'm doing Texas in April because I promised I'll do it with a friend of mine from the Philippines. So he's not alone. And then I'm doing Ultraman Canada in July. And then I'm not sure about the end of the year. I may do Maryland again because Maryland works really well for my work schedule and my family schedule. And that'll probably be it for next year. And I'll probably do some halves and some local sprints, some local Olympics, just little stuff. And then 2020 is going to be a big year. I got a big project lined up. And if I get approved and accepted and everything, that's going to be a mammoth year for me.
So I know you're from South Africa, and we kind of talked about this a little bit. I know that you're from Durban.
That's correct.
So are you going to do Comrades one day?
Yes, I would like to do the Comrades one day. I'm not sure if it'll be in the next 3 or 4 years, but I know you want to do it. And I grew up watching that race, like it's like a national pastime. And so, yes, I would like to do that. And I think I could do it. So one day.
Wow. So I know I'm going to really make an effort to do 2020 because, as you know, the 2020 is the actual 95th anniversary. And it's going to be the down year starting in Pietermaritzburg going to Durban.
Right.
Or is that right? I think that's
if it's, I don't know if it's down, but if it's down, I believe down is harder than up. But yes,
it's
from
down is harder
to
than
Durban.
up, and everybody says start with the down and then go to the up because the up is easier.
Right.
I don't know how.
I mean, that's what I hear. I mean, I don't know, but I can only imagine. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, as far as how can athletes follow you?
Julian Summers Facebook page basically is what I do. I'm a TriStar athlete, but basically on Facebook, JulianSummers.com. I mean, Julian Summers, whatever. I guess you could put it on your link, whatever. I don't know how to do it.
Just search your name on Facebook. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, Julian Summers. Yep. You could probably find me easily. And I mean, I generally don't just friend anyone that but I love to help people. the one thing I love about triathlon is I love to give back. So many people have helped me over this last year and a half, and I actually do it. I joke and say that I hate swimming, I hate biking, I hate running, but I love the people, so I'm willing to put up with that stuff to meet the people. And it's probably not too far from the truth. I have some most amazing friendships from this group and these types of humans that are pushing limits, and so I'm always around to help. And I like helping the people that are, maybe like deers in the headlights. So
nice. So I know you've only been in this sport for just a few years now, but what races do you have that's on your bucket list?
Kona. I want to do Kona, just obviously. And I would like to do that triathlon in Europe, the Roth triathlon. And then I think I'm going to start moving to some more extreme races. I'd like to do Alaska Man, Norseman potentially, if I can get in. Or I've had some issues with that race on a whole. And then Celtic Man, which is in Scotland, I believe. So I'll probably move to some more extreme stuff. I don't really have anything huge on my plate. I do want to do a 100 miles Keys run, because I don't think in any way could I run 100 miles. So I'd like to do the 100 miles Key West run, and then maybe definitely the Comrades, but I don't really have too much more at this point. I have a big race that I'm trying to do in 2020, so it's not announced yet, but when that is announced, they will consume my life for this next 2 years for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
So have you heard about what the Iron Cowboy is doing? I'm sure you know who that is, right?
Yeah, he's the guy that did 50-50. No, what is he doing next?
So he's actually putting on a race series called his Toughest Series. There's one up in Vermont, and there's also one in Utah. And this year was the first year for it, and I actually had one person from each race on the show.
Okay.
Yeah, and
what does that encompass?
So it's a 5K swim, basically, followed by a 112-mile bike ride, self-supported, no aid stations, no trash, it's 100% self-supported. And then you get off and you do a quote-unquote run of a marathon, but it's a 2-loop run on each side, and it's also a pretty much up a mountain.
Oh, right, yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, so right now, I've bitten off little bits of things at a time. So Kona was my goal. Kona was my goal long before Ultraman. But then when I kind of got into the Ultraman world, I decided Ultraman was my goal. But Kona is like a stepping stone for me. I mean, qualifying for Kona, not going to Kona. And so this year was using all these races to qualify for Kona and then get some experience and fatigue and stuff for Ultraman. But once I'm done with I'll never do 8 Ironman in a year again, purely because of time. It's a lot of time and a lot of travel. So I'll go into more intense stuff and maybe less of them. So that's kind of going to be my plan. But I'm up for anything. I mean, if it's going to challenge me and make things much more impossible, then that's the stuff that makes me smile.
Wow. So to wrap up the episode here, ask everybody the same question, and that's, what's your definition of a perfect race?
Perfect race. Like, should I break it down? What it's like?
Yeah. What does your perfect race look like?
My perfect race is, arriving at a beautiful location a few days early, meeting up with some current friends or making some new ones, having some good food, hanging out, enjoying the whole area, and then having getting the medal at the end of the day. I actually kind of like tough conditions, just because I think it's kind of cool to smile about it after the fact. I know at the time I don't like it. I don't pray for flat surf. I don't pray for calm bikes and no winds. I like the challenges. And then my perfect day would be, which is actually going to happen to me in Florida in a few weeks, is spend the next day after with all of those friends of mine, just enjoying a relaxing time, laughing about what we just did. So we're doing that in Florida. We got a big house in Florida, and there'll be 10 or 12 of very good friends of mine there, and we will just drink and have fun and just cackle about how dumb we are to pay for this stuff. That's my perfect race. It's more of a race weekend, actually.
Yeah. So you've done Ultraman in the past?
No, I was supposed to do Ultraman this year, but I broke my foot in December, end of December. So it was limited. Once my foot was recovered, my training volume was severely depleted. So we decided to move it to the following year. But I went and volunteered anyway. So that's where I met Rich Reed and Morgan and a whole bunch of the other crew that you know. So I went over there, I volunteered because I was already going. I volunteered and just had the most amazing time and helped out as much as I could. And, just said, okay, it's a setback and we'll do it the next year. And in a weird kind of way, it's actually working out better that happened, I guess, because I'm going to be a little more ready.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best down at Ultraman next year. It's going to be great. And I'd love to have you back on after your races.
Anytime.
Yeah, and I'll see you next weekend, okay?
Absolutely. Can't wait. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Have a good day, okay?
You too.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.